Okay, so this is our second video on lines, and this one is about graphing lines. So we're going to first do a quick review of how to graph using intercepts. We did this a while ago. Remember that this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis, okay? So we're going to graph the line 3x plus 2y equals 6 using its intercepts. And the intercepts are where the line crosses. This is not the actual graph of the line, but what I want you to notice is, even though it's not the actual graph of the line, this would be considered the x-intercept. Now this would have an ordered pair of 6.1 maybe, and then 0. So for the x-intercept, the y value is 0. And then this would be the y-intercept up here on the y-axis, and it didn't move horizontally at all to get there. So it would have an x value of 0 and a y value of, I don't know, whatever, 4.2 or something like that. So to find the x-intercept, we're going to let y equal 0. So I'm going to plug in 0 here for y. So 3x plus 0 equals 6. So 3x equals 6. So x equals, divide both sides by 3. So x equals 2. Then to find the y-intercept, like we said here, we're going to let x equals 0. So 3 times 0 plus 2y equals 6. 3 times 0 is 0. So 2y equals 6, divide both sides by 2, so y equals 3. Now, one of the most common mistakes that I've seen made, and I've seen some of you make it as well, is that this is not an ordered pair, because that would be at the point 2, 3, and that doesn't help us graph a line at all. These are the intercepts. So if it helps you to think about it, you let y equal 0 when you found that x equals 2, so xy would become 2, 0. And that falls here. And then you let x equal 0 when you let y equal 3. So again, x, y, 0, 3. And now you have 2 points, which is enough for us to be able to draw a line. And, you know, it's a good idea to make the line go further than the points and to put arrows at the end. But what we want is, there's another form, okay? So, we have a line here. First question I'm asking you is, what are the intercepts and slope of this line? So you might want to pause it and see if you can find the intercepts and slope yourself. And then unpause it and check your answers. Okay, so the slope is rise over run. And you can definitely use the formula, but when you're using, or when you have a graph in your presence, you can just do the rise, pick 2 points, just like you did if you did the formula. So the rise is 2, and then the run is 3. So the slope is 2/3. And if you'll remember from our previous lesson, m is a lot of times used for slope. And then the x-intercept is here on the x-axis, so it looks like it's at negative 7.5. And the y-intercept is here on the y-axis, so it looks like it's at 5. Now, what if I told you that the equation of this line is y equals 2/3 x plus 5. So I'm going to ask you to kind of look at the values that we just came up with, and then we're going to move on to trying another graph, and I want you to kind of look for some patterns, which I'm going to purposely not say right now. So what are the intercepts and slope of this line? Okay, so again, you might want to pause it and try to find them yourself, and then unpause it and check. So the slope, if I say, for example, start from this point at right here, and then go to this point, then I'm going down 1, so that would be -1 up for a rise, and 1, 2 for my run. So my slope is -1/2, which could be 1 over -2 if you did it a different way, if you went from the point on the right to the point on the left, or if you want, you could write it with the negative outside the fraction. Bottom line is, as long as you have one negative in your fraction and that's it, you're good to go. Okay? The x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis, which is there at 2. And the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis, which is here at 1. So, what if I told you that the equation of this line is y equals -1/2 x plus 1? Okay, again, look for some patterns. One more other form. Again, slope and intercepts. Pause the video, try it, see what you come up with. So I'm going to pick these 2 points to find my slope. So I'm going up 1, 2, 3. I'm going over 1, 2, 3, 4. So my slope is 3 rise, 4 run. In case you were wondering, if you started, say, for example, here and went down 3 to get to the next point, and then went left 4, the 2 negatives can cancel, and you'd still have the same answer that you had. So as long as you're counting right, it shouldn't matter where you start or end for your slope. You should get the same answer. The x-intercept is at 0, and so is the y-intercept. So the equation is y equals 3/4 x. So looking at our 3 equations, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Now, I want you to think about, and we kind of already know what m is, so I want you guys to think about what m is, which is that number in front of the x. We call that a coefficient. So the coefficient of x is the slope. And then what are we adding at the end? B. B is, let's start with this one. So B here is 5. Here it's 1. And here it's what? Well, what has it been every other time? It's been the y-intercept. So we plot the y-intercept first. So let's just real quick look at this. This is y equals mx plus b. It's called slope-intercept form because it has the slope and the y-intercept is b. That's why it's called slope-intercept form. So what's the slope? It's 2/3. What's the y-intercept? It's -5. So this is what you're going to plot first, obviously on the y-axis. So the y-axis is the vertical one, so I'm going to go down 5 and plot a point. Then I'm going to rise and run from there. My slope is 2/3, so that's a rise of 2. So rise of 2, and then a run of 3. 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to plot a point there. And you know what? I'm going to keep doing that till I run out of space. So up 2, over 3, up 2 over 3. I alternatively could go the opposite direction. So instead of going up 2, I could go down 2. Instead of going right 3, I could go left 3. Down 2, left 3. And draw a line. Okay, so you're always going to identify the slope and the y-intercept before you do anything. So what's the slope? -1/2. What's the y-intercept? 2. So I'm going to plot the y-intercept first. Now with this one, the slope is -1/2, and like I told you, that negative could go to the top or to the bottom. And this makes a difference because if you rise -1, that means go down 1. So from my y-intercept, I'm going to go down 1, and then I'm going to run 2, which is right 2. So I'm going to go right 2. And I can do that again, and again, and again. Or I can go here, and I can go up 1, left 2, and I can do that as many times as I want. Okay, and then the last thing is that you can come up with the equations of lines from the graph as well. So again, if you know the slope and the y-intercept. So the slope, well, the y-intercept is -3, and that's B. This looks like a good point here. So it's going down 1, 2, 3, 4, and then over 1. You could leave it as -4 over 1, or you could just make it -4. And you could put plus -3 if you want, or you could just put -3. And what's the equation of this line? The y-intercept is 0. So that's going to be my B. My slope, this goes up by 5s. So I go from here to here. That goes up 5, right 5. So rise over run. Plus 0, or y equals just plain x. So now you can do your homework and submit it. There are graphs on there. You don't need to use graph paper, but try to make it somewhat accurate when you're graphing, even if you're just sketching a drawing of it.